Hello everyone and welcome back to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We have some considerable collection of headlines today. Our top stories will be trades, brand swaps and company swaps, talk of Jey Uso's move to Raw, Cody Rhodes potentially moving to SmackDown, Edge potentially moving to AEW, and what's next for CM Punk. So a little bit of craziness as regards that. We'll have more on CM Punk, one rumour killer, one rumour confirmer, and one discussion point about a lawsuit. But there's also going to be talk about Panic at All Elite Wrestling for All Out, a new deal for Christian, and potentially an Edge and Christian reunion. On the WWE side, we have talk of a new feud for Roman Reigns and disaster talks being successful to make that happen. Judgment Day draped in gold. Seth Rollins continuing as champion, primarily because of changes that have been made to the card for WrestleMania. The overall star power recognised with Zoey Stark. What the plans are for Jey Uso. A level of disappointment in one of the matches at Payback, and particularly one of the competitors, Andrade and Miro, and their position with AEW and WWE. And indeed, a few more questions about situations with CM Punk and who you'd like to see him feud with should he return. So, quite a bit to cover there. I am seeming to get some issues with the streaming software. If you guys have seen what I'm seeing there, I'm not sure what's happened. That seems to be my webcam. Bear with me. I'm not sure why it's happening, but I'll still have my audio and I'll try and make that work. Genuinely not sure what's going on there. Okay, so that's gone now. Apologies, I am trying to get this working, but everything seems to have crashed. I do apologise, I don't want to do an audio-only stream here. So, can you guys see me? Yeah, it will not let me update my webcam feed. Please do bear with me while I try and get this working. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm trying to get it to work. I've turned off the webcam, that's why the screen is black, while I try and make it work. Not sure what's happening. I'm going to do a good old-fashioned turn it off and turn it back on again by unplugging it from the USB and then plugging it back in. We'll see how that goes. This may cause the entire thing to explode, in which case I do apologise, primarily to me, because I paid a lot of money for this rig. Let's try and get this webcam working. I don't even know if you guys can hear me at this point. Okay, officially turned off now. Nothing there. And we are working again. Don't know what happened. Do apologise. Turns out unplugging it and plugging it back in again did in the end work. So, still plenty to talk about. We are going to be talking about our top stories and the like as well. But let's get through some of the chat first. There are 49 people here. I do apologise that you had to sit through the breakage of my entire system there. So I want to say hi to CM, to Dylan Byrne, to Anthony Diaz, to Brad Becker, to Danny B-Side, to Leon, to LF, to Zane Charles, to Ken Thompson, to Steve, to Marcel, to Joey, to Daz, to Lucha, to Razar, to Mark, to Jack, and to Camo Gods. So far on the YouTube side, we also have Spider Boss and Bailey and Michael on the Twitch side. Let's get through some of these questions, but as usual, I will not be talking about anything that's a headline already. So, what have we got here? I think Steve asked the first question. With Jey Uso moving to Raw, I can see him being linked with Sami Zayn again, and that potentially leading to a Kevin Owens heel turn. Would this be something you'd like to see? Personally, no. I think we need to move on from Sami Zayn working with the Usos. Brad said, have you heard if new TV deals are any closer to being in place? Negotiations are ongoing. The Endeavour company is not formally set up yet, and Vince McMahon is not currently involved in them because of his recovery from surgery. Joey says, SRS reported CM Punk wanted to go back to WWE last year and was pitching ideas for a return. Did you hear this too? Yes. More on that shortly. Zane says, CM Punk returning to WWE? More on that shortly. Interesting, Lucha. I get what you're saying. I appreciate that. Joey says, do you know who Jey Uso could be feuding with on Raw? I have some names. Yes, Lucha, I was indeed in a blue fish tank there. Don't know what happened. Do not know what happened. Thanks everyone for bearing with me. Joey said maybe try restarting your stream. I have had problems like that before. It was literally just the webcam noping out for a moment. Lucha says it's because I didn't get my can of cherry coke. Hello, Honorosco. Hello, Camo Gods as well. Carmelina says hello, Tom. So excited to hear about Jey Uso. Can't wait to see what he does on the main roster. Daniel Berry says hey as well. Spider Boss is saying with Cody moving to SmackDown, do you think we could see Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes too? More on that shortly. Asking questions, all of which are going to be more on that shortly. Bailey says, how does Jey Uso's move to Raw potentially realign the WrestleMania card? It doesn't. We're still looking like we're going to get Uso versus Uso. But on the other side, there may be something there. Hello, Michael. How are you, mate? Spider-Boss says, with Mercedes possibly going to AEW, I think she would bring some attention with her. Yep, that's how wrestlers work. Okay, nearly caught up. Michael says, there you are. Spider-Boss says, with Judgment Day running Raw, who would be stepping to the Judgment Day? More on that shortly. Also says, with Trish on her side, I think Zoey Stark may struggle. She doesn't have much mic skills without Trish. We'll see. Pardon me. You'd always need mic skills. Zane Charles says, I'm not happy Lana showed up at All Out last night. Hope she doesn't wrestle unless she's improved her wrestling. Well, you wouldn't know that. We will undoubtedly find out at some point, though to my knowledge she's not there to wrestle. She was just there to make a few appearances. Hello, noob. Marcel says, I can see Judgment Day versus Kevin, Sammy, Steph and Becky for War Games. And the other Mike says, calling it now, Jey will be the one who takes the title from Gunter. Wiggly says, what up, what up? Wiggly, how you doing, mate? And Joey says, are they planning to continue the Shinsuke and Steph feud since Shin attacked Steph off air? More on that shortly. Lucha agrees, Jey for the IC title. Daz saying, do you know who's next for Steph? More on that shortly. Ray's drinking cherry coke. Welcome, Ray. Spider-Boss says, do you see we could see Becky versus Shayna now? Yes, I previously mentioned that is most likely immediately after this feud. Joey says, do you know if TBS is unhappy with Punk being fired since Collision was supposed to be his show? They are aware and they have not pulled out yet, but AEW do have a job on their hands to convince them to stick around. So, our first piece of news is going to be as regards the trading between Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. We're then going to move into CM Punk and Edge for AEW and WWE. We currently have 66 viewers and 26 likes. If you're able to, please be one of the third who've clicked thumbs up rather than one of the two thirds who haven't. So please do hit thumbs up if you can. 2 more gets us to 30 because we've just had one extra there. Jey Uso has been moved to Raw. This is an intentional move to continue building him as a babyface to try and get him to a high level for his eventual match with Jimmy Uso. They want to add additional stakes beyond the bloodline because the bloodline will be involved in different things come WrestleMania. Jimmy will be working with Solo. We are likely to see a tag team, at least briefly, of Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. But this is in many ways protecting Roman, who will not be back for a number of weeks. Jimmy Uso will start by working with AJ Styles. There have been talks between AJ Styles, the Good Brothers and Paul Heyman, and they are now happy to proceed with a feud between the Bloodline and the club. Roman is not believed to want to be too involved, but we may see some involvement, for example, of the club versus the Bloodline when it comes to War Games. Roman is expected to be there for Survivor Series. Beyond that, when it comes to Jey Uso, there are a number of possibilities for him, but he is to be treated like a top-level babyface. That does mean there is a possibility of feuds such as Finn Balor versus Jey Uso, but Finn Balor and Damian Priest are going to be busy for a while yet in the tag division, as their feud with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens is not expected to end for a little while yet. As regards Jey Uso, a victory over Gunter to win the Intercontinental title is not impossible, as that then means the Intercontinental Championship match for WrestleMania will be Uso versus Uso. Plans for Gunter may well be bigger than just that. Wiggly says, I'm glad we saw Shida on AEW 3 times. Spider-Boss says Rhea Ripley and Raquel seemed uninterested in their match, which is not even slightly true. Angel Lucia says, which brand will Orton be on? Since WWE moved on Fox, he never was an active member of SmackDown. I'm sure Fox would want him back when he returns. At the moment, creative plans are being pitched, but they are not finalised, and as such, we do not know which brand Randy Orton would return to when he returns. Daniela says, good evening, Tom. Hope you're well. What do you think is happening between Jey and Cody? More on that as we continue with these questions. A question I do want to ask you and all of you, though. As regards Jey Uso, where would you take him first? who would you have him wrestle in his first feud as a face at the top level of Monday Night Raw? Another possibility I do want to mention is the possibility of a heel turn incoming for Drew McIntyre, which I have reported previously, meaning that we could see Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. It also could mean that we see Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso. 23 Fresh says, is Tony Khan planning to let more talent go? It's a natural churn for AEW. They are looking at cutting costs a little more, so it is expected to happen, yes. Joey says, do you expect TK to throw a ton of money at Edge now since he needs a new top star on Collision? Yes, I very much do. More on that shortly. Lucha says, Cody, Cena, Roman, all on SmackDown. I grew up in the 2002-2008 era when Raw was the A show. Times have changed. Yes, they have, though Cena is only going to be there briefly, and mostly for when Roman is not there. Spider-Boss says 5 people to defeat Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I was like, really? I thought Judgment Day was fighting Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is not there. Spider-Boss says Jey Uso versus the ring general Gunter. Will says, with Cody and Jey switching sides, do you know if they may play a part in War Games? It may not. I personally find it unlikely. Backwards says, hey Tom, just wanted to say hi. Hope all is well. I'm on holidays for 10 days now. Going to zip back to the beginning now. Thank you, Backwards, and welcome to the show. Ken says, Matt Cardona says he's booked for the rest of 2023. He won't be returning to WWE. There were no plans that I'm aware of for him to ever do so. Anyone reporting that he was must have been confused. Juan Roscoe says, if CM Punk returns, do you think some of the people that don't want him there maybe leave? Possibly. I find it unlikely. It's more likely that he leaves again. Camel says, Jey versus Judgment Day is definitely on the horizon. Jey Uso versus Dominic Mysterio has been mentioned. I've just seen that Jack's mentioned that too. Jey Uso versus Dominic Mysterio has been mentioned, and that would include Jey Uso spending some time in NXT. Leeds delivers. You're going by the official name now, Pete. Says, hey Tom, hope you're okay. Had a bad accident on my bike, but I'll be okay. Good to hear, mate. Good to hear. I hope you're alright. Now says, have Nakamura beat Seth at Fastlane for the title. Have Jey feuded Nakamura and then Drew heel turn. That says Jey versus Seth. Rizal says, I think War Games matches will be for the Raw men and the other will be for the SmackDown women. What do you think? I don't think there are enough SmackDown women to fill a War Games that are already getting pushed. Jack, as I did mention, said Jey versus Dominic. Joey says, have you heard of any early matches being pitched for Fastlane? I will be putting a video together on that tomorrow with early pitches for match predictions and match card predictions for Fastlane. Seth Rollins versus Nakamura will feature, as will a rematch for the Tag Team Championships. After that, it won't be rematches. It'll be stuff like Raquel versus Liv Morgan. Spider-Boss says, I thought Cody was going to step up to Judgment Day, but now he's going to SmackDown. That is surprising. The other Mike says Jey versus Dom should be a nice, fresh first feud for Jey. Ken suggests Jey Uso versus Austin Theory, which of course would open up the door to a United States Championship on SmackDown. Daniela says, if Cody goes to SmackDown, does it lead to him versus Roman? More on that later. 23 Fresh says, do you think AEW wrestlers will request a release? Some of them do, some of them don't. There are release requests currently ongoing. They just don't publicise it as much as WWE do. Joey says, are there any plans for JD McDonough to officially join the Judgment Day, or is he going to keep attacking people for Finn? Lil from column A, Lil from column B. He is, as I mentioned previously, affiliated the same way that Bret Hart was affiliated with the NWO. Zane says, will we ever see Pete Dunne's character return? The character has already returned, it's just named something slightly different. Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes has not said outright that he is going to SmackDown. We are expecting that he will clarify the situation on tonight's Monday Night Raw. He intentionally did not make it clear because they want people tuning in to Monday Night Raw, where Cody is expected to cut a promo that clarifies the situation. From where I'm sitting, it's very interesting, this one, because Cody going to SmackDown would not necessarily suggest that it's going to be for a particular feud, at least not yet. What it would suggest is that they want someone else to win the Royal Rumble. Now, if I stop and think about who this might be, particularly in the Cody side, if he is going to face Roman on the SmackDown side, it does mean that we need someone to face Seth Rollins, who's likely to retain the championship until WrestleMania. With this in mind, personally, I would go with Gunter. So if Cody is moving to SmackDown to take on Roman Reigns, that seems the obvious main event for another year of WrestleMania. Once in a lifetime, eat your heart out. But it does mean an opportunity for someone new on the Raw side to win the Royal Rumble. Could be Jey. Could be Jey, and that's how we get back to a WrestleMania main event of Jey Uso versus Roman. Personally, I think Gunther would be a very good shout. The big tell on that one will be if Gunther loses the Intercontinental Championship. One last thing I want to say before moving on from this one. One of the reasons Jey has been moved to Raw is because they believe they need more top-level faces. A large part of this is Drew McIntyre. They not currently have the assurances that they're looking for that McIntyre wants to sign a new deal, a lucrative new deal at that they have started to put the offer and the feeler out for. Without those guarantees, Drew McIntyre will not be winning the Intercontinental Championship anytime soon, and this is why he lost clean to Gunther. Drew McIntyre, as I reported many months ago, is looking like he'll be used as a bit of a jobber lower down the card for many months to come until he signs a new deal. Spider-Boss says Liv is still injured, so Rhea versus Raquel 2 at Fastlane, right? I find it unlikely. Sean says hello, Tom. Hello, Sean. Jack says, I don't believe Cody's going to SmackDown. He's staying on Raw, I believe. Chris Leclerc suggests Trish Stratus versus Zoey Stark at Fastlane, which I think would be a very good shout and a very big opportunity for Zoey Stark. King Azza also saying, is Cody going to get traded to SmackDown? I do not have a clear answer on that one for you, unfortunately. Joey says, PWInsider reported Paul Ellering was spotted in Orlando recently. Could this be a sign that AOP is closer to returning? If he was there, it is likely because he has had a hand in negotiations for contracts for AOP. The AOP, to my knowledge, have not signed new deals, but are very interested in doing so. Nelson says, any possibility Edge stays with WWE? Yes. It's entirely up to him whether he wants to sign the deal that has been offered to him by WWE. Mark says, please, 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 let Gunther win the Rumble. Jay Quick is here, an OG in the house. Says, hi, Tom, in my LA Knight voice. Yeah. I hope that's your LA Knight voice. How you doing, mate? Good to see you. Now says, yep, Tom, that's what I said from the start. Have Cody start from 1 this time, have Gunther at 30, and have Gunther eliminate Cody to win. Spider-Boss says, WWE, the kings of rematches, Cena versus The Rock at WrestleMania 28 and 29, Brock versus Roman at WrestleMania 34 and 38, and in fact 31. Chris, how you doing, mate? Says, good evening, Tom. Good evening to you too. The other Mike says, me personally, I've Gunther beat Seth before the year out, Jey win the Royal Rumble, Jey Gunther at WrestleMania for the heavyweight title. With that in mind, Mike, who would you have Seth facing? Razar says, what if it ends up being Jey versus Jimmy for the world title? I found that very unlikely, but it's not impossible. Joey says, will Trish be taking time off, or they're going to continue the feud with Zoey? Hard to tell. Raw will be the big tell here, because Zoey Stark certainly looked great at Payback. The question is how far they go with this. Lucha says, Tom, after a spectacular match, is Trish possibly done or taking a break? Zane says, will we see Zoey Stark become a babyface since she turned on Trish Stratus? Certainly it's more than it was. I think Zoey Stark versus Rhea Ripley is in the building as well. Mark says, this is going to be a dumb question, but do wrestlers have agents that do contracts and stuff, or do wrestlers do it themselves? Depends on the wrestler. Certain people do have agents who work on their behalf. Most of the time it is wrestlers. The ones who get the good deals, they've got agents. Spider-Boss says, who would face Rhea at Fastlane since she needs a new rival? Personally, as I mentioned, Zoey Stark's right there. I know Liv Morgan's injured, but that certainly is something that I think they'll get to down the line. Outside of that, I think at this point they'll rotate. Io Sky will defend the championship at Fastlane. Rhea Ripley will not. Chris says, I don't need Cody to move to SmackDown myself based on my prediction for War Games. Camo says, I'm interested to hear the news on CM Punk to WWE and Edge to AEW. Then stick around, because it is coming. Alex Pires, welcome, says, Tom, October 28th is a Halloween edition episode of SmackDown. I have 2 ideas for that show if you want to hear it and give your thoughts. You're welcome to share. Joey says, do you think WWE will offer Edge more money now since TK will offer a lot? Nope. Spider-Boss says, when do you see Bianca returning? Soon. They're waiting for the right reveal, as it were. Razar says, is WWE planning any big things for Raw with football coming back next week on Mondays? Do they care about the ratings? Yes and no. They care enough that they will try and counter-program, but they'll try and counter-program by having good TV. So, lots of Seth Rollins. Then says, do you think Zoey Stark becomes Raw Women's Champion? She's got a long career ahead of her, mate. Backwards says, I really can't see CM Punk coming back unless he's going to be fed to Roman Reigns. More on that shortly. Rana Roscoe says, please give Mercedes Money the AEW Women's title. King Azza says, do you think Gunther will hold the IC Championship till WrestleMania? I don't, but only because I think he'll go higher. Mark Justice says, hey Tom. Hey Mark. When will Cody Rhodes go to SmackDown? Also, do you think CM Punk will return to WWE? I've just finished the discussion about Cody Rhodes. I'm not sure at this point. As regards CM Punk, that's up next. Dom says, what's up, Tom and chat? Don't forget to hit the like button, or we have 3 words for you. Thank you, Trish. The other match says, Seth heel Drew, non-title match. Well, if you're going to do that, do it for the title. I'm going to sneeze, bear with me. Pardon me. Now, shouts like the stream. Very passionate. We do have 87 viewers and 42 likes, which means half and half. If you're one of the half that hasn't hit like yet, please do consider it. It does make a massive difference. Chris says, I'm predicting it's Cody, Sami, Kevin Owens and Jey Uso versus the Judgement Day at War Games. I'd imagine that would include JD McDonough then. Colin Gunn says, do you think we can see AJ versus Roman? I did mention that earlier, so you might want to zip back to about 10 minutes in. But just in recap, there have been sit-down talks between between AJ Styles, the club, and Paul Heyman, and they are willing to work together now. Ken says, will Zoey Stark align herself with Becky Lynch? No, Becky Lynch doesn't forget that quickly. Martin says, hi mate, just wanted to say hi, can't stay but we'll catch up. Smash those likes, everyone. Thank you very much, Martin, appreciate that. Spider-Boss says, I'm certainly interested in the Mercedes Money and Edge CM Punk news. Sean says, Christian said on an all-out media scrum his re-sound of AEW and was asked about Edge coming to AEW. Says no other friends other than Luchasaurus. More on that shortly. Alex Perez says the idea is Bayley versus Shotzi Haunted House of Horrors match, the NXT match when Dexter and Grimes face in 2020. Wouldn't hate it. Spider-Boss says, with Triple H being the most anti-CM Punk guy in wrestling, I don't see CM Punk going back to WWE. Honestly, more on that shortly. Parrish says, hello Parrish, and thank you very much for sharing the stream earlier today on X. Sean says, are you ready for Gunter versus Gable 3? No, it's going to be great. Nas asks if it's going to main event. I suspect it might. KJ says, what's up, Tom? Happy I made it today, and I won't spam Punk questions, as I know you'll get to it, but I'll say this, CM Punk. Bailey says, does the bleeding approach employed by Jon Moxley and others in AEW bump up ratings, or is it frowned upon by the networks? It doesn't really bump up ratings. You know how it's going to work, so why would you? But I don't know. King Azza says, do you think Cody has grown stale? I'm starting to grow tired of him. Well, you do. I personally do not. Chris says, yes, JD included there. I've already been kind of adding him in Judgment Day, which I think is fair. Lucha says, Tom, remember the reports about Edge wanting to help raise the stock of younger wrestlers and get them over? I chuckle at this due to the amount of times he won matches against other talent. Yeah, he hasn't really done many favours, has he? KJ says, Paul Heyman, AJ Styles and the club sitting down to clear the air, unlike AEW. Joey says, do you think WWE will do more brand reshuffling since there haven't been any recent call-ups? Yes and no. I think they'll take their time with it, but as I say, a lot of call-ups have been cancelled. There's just too many people on the main roster right now, and they're not really hiring too many underneath. Hector, how you doing, mate? Says, Tom, did you see the report of Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net that in 2022 there's an altercation between CM Punk and William Regal where Punk called Regal a stooge for Triple H? I understand that William Regal and Punk probably wouldn't interact with each other in WWE, but it could have any effect on a potential reunion or no. More on that shortly. Stick around. Spider-Boss says Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs was like Biggie says, big meaty men slapping meat. And Zane Charles says, I don't know why WWE or AEW did not sign Jordynne Grace. She's one of the best women's wrestlers, primarily because there just isn't much room for anything beyond top level women's wrestlers or already at that very top level. King Other says, do you ever see Cody turning heel or having a more edgy side to him? Long career, mate, long career. Alex says, Joe Gacy's been discussed heavily on the main roster. Is he? Can I get your source for that, please, Alex? Because I've heard that for years. Perry says, expect Stratton to be a potential call-up if a thing with Trish impresses higher ups. Quite possibly, I'd imagine you mean Becky there. But there's a lot of people who should be getting called up some point soon, but haven't yet. Razar says, do you watch Raw regularly? Pretty regularly. Not all the time, but pretty regularly. I like to stay abreast of it and stay caught up. Next piece of news then is as regards the swap of CM Punk and Edge. I'll start with Edge. There is definitely a strong belief that we are going to see Edge sign with AEW. Edge has not yet signed the contract extension that was offered to him by WWE, and he is believed to be looking for new challenges. Christian has signed a new deal with AEW, and this does mean essentially that if we're going to get an Edge and Christian reunion, it will be in AEW, and that is something that the Edge camp believe that he is interested in making happen. He does want to give back to the wrestling world, and get this, he does not necessarily believe that the WWE put him in a position to work with the younger talent as much as he would have liked. With this in mind, he is looking for something new, a new challenge, and the WWE have told him there will be no world championships in his future in the WWE. This does mean that if he wants top gold, he will need to go to AEW, which is why it's being considered. The AEW camp, particularly Tony Khan, are willing to go hell for leather to make this happen. As regards CM Punk, there will be no end to the amount of times I'm going to say this. There is no interest from the WWE in a return to the WWE for CM Punk. The rumours that CM Punk wanted to enter the Royal Rumble 2020 has naturally come out from the CM Punk camp and makes it very, very clear, one, that it's from the CM Punk camp because it literally says what he personally wanted, and two, it makes it clear that there was no contact with WWE. WWE were already set for the Royal Rumble, and even if CM Punk was available, I do not believe they would have actually considered letting him join the company. Particularly after what has happened recently, there is no interest in CM Punk from the WWE. As regards the story about William Regal, I can confirm that that is true. William Regal himself never really treated it like a big deal and wouldn't really consider it a big deal if CM Punk were to arrive in WWE. That would have no impact on the hiring, except for the fact that Triple H, thank you Parrish, appreciate that, 2023, not 2020, thank you for clarifying for me. As regards Triple H, William Regal not being happy would certainly make Triple H even less happy than he already is. Triple H does not want to sign CM Punk. One last part on CM Punk before we move on then. AEW are expecting a lawsuit to be announced by the CM Punk camp and legal counsel any day now, so expect this to get real messy real fast. That said, AEW do not believe that legally CM Punk has a leg to stand on, so we'll see how this one plays out. Certainly, I'm interested to see what happens because I do believe it's going to get messy and fast. Before we continue, and there's still plenty more to cover, I do want to say, if you've not yet hit like, please do so. We have 88 people watching and only 46 likes. But one more thing I want to mention. This time last week, I had 2,630 subscribers, and I was celebrating reaching 2,600. Recently, I've invested a little bit in YouTube advertising. I did make a promise to all of you that any money earned on this channel would go back into the channel at least until the end of my third year, which is January 15th, 2024. So I have, now that I've paid all my taxes and I've worked out exactly what I'm earning, I have started to reinvest. And as such, YouTube advertising is doing me the world of good. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've gone in 3 days from 2,637 to 3,014, and that's not entirely from YouTube advertising. This is translating to more views, which is a concern that I had, because you may have noticed the CM Punk video released on Sunday, yesterday, is doing extremely well. That video alone has granted me more than 30 subscribers, meaning that it's not all from YouTube advertising that I'm currently gaining. Now, I will continue to monitor because I don't want to be in a position where I'm essentially buying subscribers who don't actually view. But if I'm using YouTube advertising and I'm getting people who are watching videos, that's absolutely fantastic, and I definitely want a lot more of it. So at the moment, it runs until the 14th, so for another 10 days. I will work out where we are at the end of that and see whether or not it's been a success and see whether or not it's an area we want to continue with. But I'm reaching record numbers of views as well as record numbers of subscribers gained. Thank you to everyone who has watched the CM Punk video, by the way. It's doing extremely well, and I know a lot of people are really enjoying it. Ooh. Spider-Boss says, does WWE still want call-ups to the main roster for Bron Breakker? Yeah, they want the call-ups for a lot of really high-up talented people. For some reason, they just keep getting cancelled. If this is your first show watching, by the way, we have just hit 50 likes. Thank you kindly. Be sure to subscribe as well. You'll get notifications every time we go live with our new shows, exclusive news on Mondays and Fridays. 23 Fresh says, CM Punk to NXT. Noob says, is Becky's next feud with Tiffany Stratton, will Becky become a Grand Slam champion? Not going to spoil the ending for it, mate, but certainly it will be in NXT. Alex's source was BWE. Yeah, they're okay. Chris says Roxanne Perez, who I still think is the one. Perez says I do. I'm eating, so I mess up. Unlike my streams when I drink, I'm always right. Joey says they plan to have Becky feud with Tiffany Stratton to see how Tiffany does in a big feud. No, they are planning to do that to ensure NXT continues to get decent ratings, as well as give Becky and Tiffany something to do that guarantees them elevation. Chris says CM Punk is too toxic in my personal opinion. Sean says, has CJ Perry signed with AEW? I don't believe it's been a formal sign of any point. There's been no actual signing. Whereas CJ Perry has made at least a couple of appearances and will be making more in the days to come. Yes, CM, I've already covered the Cody news. If you pop back, I think about 7-8 minutes, you'll see it all there. Jordan says, good evening, Tom. Thank you, Jordan. Good evening to you too. Spartacus says, I think CM Punk is a flight risk and I don't see WWE wanting him back anytime soon. Said he when he first came back and I stand by it now. Perry says, could we see some change to WWE not having interest in Punk if Endeavour shows interest? Endeavour could show interest, however Vince McMahon, Nick Khan and Triple H would still have to be on board. Spider-Boss says the Young Bucks certainly got mixed reactions at All Out. Wiggly says if indeed it's true Punk lunged at Tony Khan, ordinary members of staff got affected, then Punk's case is weak. And of course there is actual footage of exactly what happened backstage. I've seen a lot of people ask, where is it? Why hasn't it been released? Journalists ask that. You really can't work out the answer? Why evidence in a potential lawsuit isn't being released to the public? You really don't know? Hector says on one side, I'll be sad to see Edge go to AEW as I don't really watch the product, but I totally get that he's done everything he could possibly do while in WWE. It bothers me a little that he states he wants to work with younger talent, yet when given the chance in WWE other than Judgment Day, he's not really put anyone over. Then he says, I'm not happy the way AEW booking Taya Valkyrie. Lucia says, I think Edge should go to AEW, had a return run. His final story with Sheamus felt like a great way to wrap it all up. Go to AEW and see what he and Christian can do. We then start to see some reaction to the success that we've had. Nas says, Tommy 3K is here. Thank you, Nas. Jason says, congrats on 3.01k subs, Tom. Good evening, both Tom and chat. Welcome, Jason. How you doing, mate? Joey says, what could Punk even sue TK for unless there was some kind of clause in his contract promising him money? If he was let go, he has no case. It's CM Punk. They're expecting him to try. Daz says, well done, Tom. Thank you, Daz. Appreciate that. Razar says, in my opinion, the NXT 2.0 class should mostly all be called up by now, but Triple H messed it up by rehiring a bunch of people that have done nothing, really. JJ says, hey, Tom, are they letting Becky go back to NXT to face Tiffany to stall for her and Rhea? I've already covered that one at some length. Spider-Boss says, who could be Io Sky's next opponent? There's a number of different people in the spot. I would think Shotzi would be a good person to actually jump in at this point, but we also have Bianca, Asuka, who I think is going to be saved for Mania, and of course Charlotte Flair. Bailey says CM Punk may not win a lawsuit, but his attorney can depose lots of people to disclose Tony Khan's management under oath, which would certainly make for a very messy situation. Brad says, Tom, do you think it's a mistake on AEW to go all out in Chicago year after year? Nope, they consider that their home, and by all accounts it was a pretty successful show. Spider-Boss says, I never got why Roxanne Perez lost the NXT Women's title at Stand and Deliver. Never got why. Aled, how you doing, mate? Says, hey Tom, how are you? Just wondering if a potential Cena-Cody match has been talked about. It has. John Cena gave a list to the WWE of people he wanted to work with when he returned. Perry says a really nice number is 69, so let's get to that. Well, at the moment we're on 53. We take 16 more to get to 69 likes. If you haven't hit like yet, you could be the one to do it. Daniela says, any news or rumours when the next draft could be after WrestleMania? Nas says, I know you don't watch much NXT. Have you heard about the opinions of two names, Wesley and Dragon Lee? Yeah, they love them, and I know they love them because they're featured regularly. One says, I doubt Punk can win the whole lawsuit because AEW and their lawyers have footage of him starting it and launching it TK. That is what's rumoured to be in the footage. To be clear, I don't know what the legal situation is for either side. Dane said, I don't get YouTube ads because I'm a premium subscriber. Fair enough, mate. I still get, as a YouTube subscriber from yourself, I still get a little bit of income from the fact that you're watching as a subscriber. Colin, Eric says, I'm happy there's a little bit of live news. Does that mean she returns soon? Not necessarily. Kang says, is Cody going to SmackDown in order to build him towards a Roman rematch? I cannot guarantee that Cody is going to SmackDown. If he does, Roman is a logical choice. Sean says, I don't know if I trust BWE. He did say Becky would take a break after SummerSlam, which is still on TV. Zane, at times I've watched Peep Show. Yes. Moxie, welcome. Says, yo, have you reported Jey and Cody news yet? Yes, I have. By all means, zip back and check it out. Wiggly says, can we not just... Okay, you're entitled to your opinion, mate. You by all means put it out there. I'm not going to read that. Razar says, my prediction is WWE makes an offer, but it's a low ball. He declines since he really has no leverage anymore with AEW firing him. I don't see that happening. Perry says, with CM Punk out of AEW, does this mean we will see more Colt Cabana? Probably yes. Jason says, doing well, thank you. Glad to hear it, mate. Ross, welcome. Says, hi, Tom. Heading back to the start, just saying hello. Hello, sir. Welcome. Noob says, Punk definitely put Tony Khan's life in danger. Is it true? I cannot sit here and say with 100% accuracy that anyone's life was in danger. That would potentially be prejudicing a lawsuit. If there is a lawsuit. I need you guys to realise I can only report things that I am 100% on. Okay? Most of what's being reported right now potentially is going to be used in lawsuit proceedings. And as such, it probably shouldn't have been reported. Hector says there's a good chance we'll never see the all-in video, but with Tony Khan saying his life is put in danger, which makes me wonder what exactly happened. Mustafa, how are you doing? Says, been a while. Hey, my friend. Hello, Mustafa. How are you? Joey says, do you know if they're planning to have Cena wrestle at Fastlane? I don't know if they're planning that, but Cena will be wrestling quite a bit over the course of his 2-month tenure. 23 Fresh says, any Mandy Rose news? None whatsoever. Joey says, do you think Jack Perry will be involved with this lawsuit? It depends if he is sued or not. One says, Mercedes Money will call herself the gold-printed CEO of AEW Women's Division. Will she? Why would she do that? Moxie says, Tom, I still have Solo beating Roman. Makes sense, and it would benefit Solo more than it would benefit Cody. Cody's already a bona fide star. Zane says, I keep singing the CM Punk theme music. He said that a few times. He really wants me to read it. And Razar says, why do you think all this CM Punk was wanting to go to WWE news is now being reported? Is it coming from Punk's side? Yes. Spider-Boss says, different versions of the CM Punk news. The Wrestling Observer says one thing and Fightful says another, because they are getting their information from different sources, all of whom have different opinions and claim to have seen different things. This, once again, could potentially be used to create reasonable doubt in any potential lawsuit. You have to be aware of these things. You have to be aware. So there was a sense of panic around All Out that Tony Khan attempted to dissipate by going out and cutting a promo in front of the crowd at Collision. By and large, he did succeed in doing so, allowing the crowd to get all of their boos and their hatred out on him and taking a lot of the heat off the wrestlers. That panic was largely gone by the time the actual event kicked off, and overall, they believe it was a very successful event. What have we got? WWE are extremely happy with Zoey Stark. This should not come as a surprise to anyone. Zoey Stark has been extremely successful in her brief time on the main roster, and the WWE are extremely happy with the work that she has done so far. Particularly happy with an element of creativity, for example her reaction when she was hit with a chair by Trish. That wasn't planned, but the acting as a result of it is something that Triple H in particular was very, very happy about. Thank you very much, Christy and Daniel, for subscribing to the show. You will get notifications every Monday and every Friday when we go live for Spoiler Warning, which is our exclusive news show that you're watching now. But we also have SmackDown watch parties and watch parties for pay-per-views also. So that's where we are with Zoey Stark. On the other side of the spectrum, there is a certain level of disappointment in the match between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. There was a number of disjointed moments, and the WWE by and large creatively seemed to be blaming Raquel Rodriguez for it rather than Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's more established pedigree. Raquel Rodriguez had a few awkward moments. It's very unfortunate, but it does seem to happen in and around that championship in particular. It's caused some problems, unfortunately, when it comes to some of the matches we've seen recently. It used to be the SmackDown Women's Championship, and it also gave us some clunky matches between Ronda Rousey and Shotzi beyond. What I will say on that side, though, Ronda Rousey has not been missed even slightly so far. Creatively, by the fandom, I haven't even heard her name mentioned. Ring Scoop says, Tom, sir, and tips hat. Welcome, Ring Scoop. Nice to see you, sir. Perry says, do you have any information regarding the rumour that gimmick PLEs are going after 2023? They've been trying to phase them out for a while. Shows like TLC, shows like Money in the Bank, Hell in a Cell, already gone. There was talk of moving Money in the Bank back to WrestleMania, but the option of having a perceived top 4 pay-per-view going to London was certainly something that they wanted to take advantage of. We'll see what happens next year. Daniela says, any update on Braun Strowman and when he could return? He's training, he will be returning soon. He hasn't been cleared as of yet, but they are waiting for a storyline to be pitched that works for him anyway. Joey says, I wonder if CM Punk's camp is giving info to SRS and those other journalists. Joey, keep going through the names. There is one in particular that very obviously Punk is giving information to. Hector says, Tom, I know you're a busy man, but the new documentary about Kurt Angle is live on Peacock. Really intriguing, goes into Kurt's Olympic career and his painkiller addiction, which I knew about, but never knew was as bad as it was. Give it a watch if you get the chance. KJ says, no, Tom, we got to have hope for a CM Punk return to WWE. Christian Daniels says, I like WWE right now. Right now is a very good time to be a WWE fan. They're giving us very good pay-per-views and some very good characters. Parrish says, can we ever expect new main roster tag team titles for the men? Hard to say. In many ways, since Triple H took over, the tag division has been gutted, and it's not even close to being where it was in its heyday. This naturally is causing some issues. There aren't enough tag teams to really present a liable or a credible threat to teams like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Certainly to teams like the Judgement Day at the moment. We are going to be seeing a continuation between Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn and the Judgement Day, primarily because they need time for the Street Profits to develop. So it's hard to say. I do think they're going to split the championships at WrestleMania though. Rosal says, Zoey Stark has really won me over as a fan. Wasn't really interested in her NXT run, but she's killed it on the main roster. Sometimes it works like that. Baron Corbin, same thing. Sometimes that's just how it works. Joey says maybe Raquel was nervous since it was her first big PLE match. I accidentally said the right thing. Weird. Certainly possible. 23 Fresh asked me, should AEW fire Jack Perry? I do not know the exact details of the situation. As such, I cannot answer that question, and I cannot prejudice any potential lawsuit by stating anything I don't know for a fact. Wiggly says, I miss Ronda Rousey, but I was a fan of hers from back in her Olympic judo and MMA days. Spider-Bell says, Rhea lately doesn't sell so much the moves of her opponent apart from her match with Natalya. Rhea Ripley hasn't really had a good match. She's been specifically told not to sell to the same degree that she did. Wiggly says, is it still early for WWE to make an announcement for the next UK PLE? Yes. Also says, does WWE have another Saudi show this year? Yes. Joey says, Triple H is probably happy he doesn't have to let Ronda book her own matches. KJ says, I'll say this, maybe unpopular, but I feel Raquel is a bit unready or a bit behind. I feel she needs to add a lot to her character and presentation. Ken says, my friend wants to become a wrestler. Okay, leaving it there. JJ says, I was disappointed with Rhea and Raquel, especially since Becky and Trish was an amazing match. Joey says, they're planning for the Profits to feud with the Judgement Day now. No. Alyssa says, Cody Rhodes deserves to beat Roman Reigns. That's certainly your opinion. Wiggly says, Tom, you went to All In. You're talking more about AEW. What's your view on AEW at the moment as a product? Well, when it comes to AEW, I think they provide very high quality wrestling, some very enjoyable storylines, but I do feel a casual viewer will not be able to get on board with it, and that's why they are losing the ratings battle. They do have some very talented people, and they could do to focus more on people like Jay White, but I do think they are building people in a great way, and MJF certainly is well worth every moment. They've hit a nice groove recently, but they are struggling, for ratings because they don't do recaps and the like. Spider-Boss says, Ronda versus Shayna wasn't a good match, but people blame Shayna. Rhea versus Raquel wasn't good, but people blame Raquel. Kind of unfair to put the blame on Raquel in this case. I agree. Ken says, Dave Meltzer, CM Punk is heeding information? I promise you CM Punk is not giving any information to Dave Meltzer. I promise you. Bailey says, Baron Corbin in NXT has been a little disappointing. I thought he'd be featured more. Chris says they're currently beefing up the tag team division by showcasing the teams they do have, but it will be a while yet until we see a credible tag team challenge for the belts. I agree with that, and I do believe it will be the Street Profits. Thanks for switching to YouTube, mate. I appreciate that. Parrish pointing out Ed Fry's favourite, Jay White. Dad says, I'm going to watch wrestling in November again, Tom. Fantastic. I hope you have a great time. Chris says, Ed loves his Jay White. Ken says, when will Natalya get her next feud? It'll be a while yet. They're not really focused on Natalya right now. Wiggly says, I think AEW does well on the wrestling part, but storylines-wise, not so much. There are still some people in AEW who are looking to find a way out the door. Andrade is someone that they're keeping an eye on. There is believed to have been contact at some point, though there is not evidence being shared of this right now, between Andrade and Triple H in some manner. Miro, also someone who at the time was believed to be wanting to move to WWE. A lot of his fears have been assuaged since, and it looks like he's not that concerned at this point in time. Aleister Black as well. Now, Malachi Black is also someone who did want to return under Triple H, but he's waiting for his contract to be in a better position. Samoa Joe is doing extremely well with his current position. I would expect him also to go to WWE when the opportunity arises. Will says, do you think Raquel's too used to being in a tag team? And when she does work singles matches like 2 or 3 minutes? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, it wasn't her best work. Joey says, maybe a team from NXT could get called up like Grizzled and Vets or the Creed brothers. If that happens, what will happen is that we have more tag teams who are at the very bottom level of the main roster and going absolutely nowhere. Perry says, do you think MJF and Ospreay stay with their current promotions in 2024? Yes, I do. Razar says, if in the current issue of Rhea she's so over fans love her, it makes her opponents who are supposed to get cheered look bad. Same thing was happening with LA Knight before the turn. I wouldn't go that far. There was certainly some heat for Raquel Rodriguez, and Rhea Ripley, as long as she is spearing Kevin Owens through barricades, is not going to get the lion's share of the love. Spider-Bass says, Andrade hasn't appeared in AEW since his ladder match with Buddy Matthews at Collision. Collision was on Friday, mate. And says, Rhea vs Raquel at NXT in 2020 was better. Yes. Sai says, hi Tom and all. Thanks for the Punk coverage. Glad to see the channel doing so well. Thank you kindly, Sai. I appreciate that. We're doing very well at the moment on the channel. I'm very happy with the numbers. I'm also very happy with the fact that it's not all down to the advertising and thing. We are actually doing record numbers of the channel even without that. Perry says, I put Raquel in a team with Zelina, have LWO represented in the women's tag team. Possibly Liv Morgan will eventually return, and that could be a little bit cruel. Thomas says, hi Tom. Hope you've had a good weekend and Monday caught up with the stream from Saturday. Really enjoyed Payback. Just felt that the ending seemed like something was missing, but enjoyed it overall. I agree. And Ken says, what is pay-per-view of the year from any company? Personally, I do think WrestleMania was a very good show. Joey says, who do you see Cody feuding with now? He seems kind of directionless. Depends if he's on Raw or SmackDown. Right, what else have we got? Talked about Jey Uso. Talked about Judgment Day and their continuing feud. Talked about what's next for Rollins. Perry says Cody feuds with Gunter, in my opinion. I would absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And I think that moment is exactly what they need. And Thomas says, I can also confirm that Paris is a very nice place. I agree. Went there recently myself. So I think that is our news covered. We've had 48 minutes, covered quite a lot of news there. Certainly the first piece of news took a full half hour, but then we flew through the rest of it. Joey says, any news on Shin and Seth? Nothing major. It looks like they're going to continue this feud. Seth Rollins has a number of potential challenges, but I don't see anyone particularly jumping in at the moment. Sean says, did you see Nakamura attack Seth after Payback went off the air? Many asked why it wasn't aired to close the show. Ran out of time. And Parrish says, we need 12 more likes to reach the sex number. Shame. Sean Garner says, is CM Punk really coming back to WWE? No. So, we are going to wrap up there. We will have a video going live tomorrow detailing my match card predictions for WWE Fastlane. Wednesday, we'll get the Payback review, and then every Wednesday going forwards, we'll have a premiere at spoiler warning time for a month backwards in pay-per-view. So it will be Payback this week. Next week it will be SummerSlam. The week after we'll go back to Night of Champions, etc, etc, etc. That'll be a regular Wednesday thing for 14 weeks, which will take us nicely through until Christmas. Until then, thank you everyone for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and I hope to see you all again soon. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.